Hey, everybody. So today we have my good friend and special guest, Sailesh. Sailesh is a VC with the Anthill Fund, Anthill Ventures, and I'm very excited to have him here with us today for him to share his journey of how he got into VC and his journey and general lessons about life and what we can learn from it. So Sailesh, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ephraim. The pleasure is all mine, and look forward to the interview, and look forward to sharing my journey with you and all the people who are listening to this.
Thank you so much. So let's start all this from the beginning. Before you became this celebratory VC, and before your whole exciting journey with Anthill and everything else, where are you from, and what was your upbringing
like? So, Ephraim, I come from Hyderabad, which is south of India. Quite a traditional background. I come from a bureaucratic family with a lot of order, discipline, timeliness, and attention to little things in life. We were always told to pay attention to the things around you, stay in the present, and always value ethics and morals. So my entire family has been in the bureaucratic way of life, serving in the government, mostly in administrative positions, in the police, law and order, in the revenue side, and so on and so forth. So to say, interestingly, I'm the first generation entrepreneur in my family.
Wow. So how did growing up in such a family, obviously a lot of having morals and moral compass is an amazing thing, but timeliness and orderliness doesn't go together for entrepreneurs. Two contradictions.
It is. As I said, I think how it helped me is to basically create a more, I would say, discipline within myself and create those standards. And then I think, of course, as you mentioned, entrepreneur has to flex his muscles and everything in order to achieve what he has achieved. So yeah, I think, of course, I would say I would bend a little bit of timeliness and order to achieve what I've done. But yeah, I think it kind of helped me and become a journey.
Wow, that's incredible. So let me ask you like this. So obviously you went through your whole entire childhood, then you went to university, college, and then you obviously started working in a corporate life in the beginnings part. How did you get into entrepreneurship?
So I would say it was more about me being inquisitive, of firstly being my own boss, and secondly trying to solve a problem, which obviously I couldn't find an answer to at my corporate workplace. Yeah. So I'd worked in India for a bit and then worked in the US for a short while after my master's. And I kind of felt that my education, my journey was meant to more definitive, to solve a specific purpose or problem. And of course, the excitement of being your own boss. Right. But what really stood out for me is challenging status quo. And that's what always drove me to being an entrepreneur and solving a specific problem.
So usually when people get into entrepreneurship, they start a startup. No one goes ahead and starts a VC fund. The first, so I mean that's just incredible. Like let me just skip the whole process and do it. But everyone has something to offer from the operations side or that side. So like, what made you? You're one of the co-founders of Anthill Ventures, correct?
Correct.
So what made you decide like you wanted to become a VC and get into launch your own fund? And that whole process?
So I should be honest, I did have two startups before I joined Anthill Ventures. And I think, any journey towards capital investment requires some kind of discipline of money, and that comes through running your own venture. And I did have a company of my own in the US called Spark Technologies, which still runs and provides IT services. Mm-hmm. And I try to disrupt that by developing a team which provides mobile apps, as you mentioned, for the Indian community.
Right.
So the first one was a B2B marketplace of indirect purchasing and group buying, which was acquired by a large corporate in India. And the second startup was more of a quizzing app in vernacular languages, which didn't really take off in the way we did. we thought, sorry, it's kind of went south, but had a lot of learning for me from the aspect of understanding the Indian sentiment, Indian cultures, and vernacular understanding of the market. Um, After that, venture capital came, I wouldn't say naturally to me, but my co-founder and my, I would say almost a mentor, Prasad Wanga, had come up to me with this idea that, let's look at this from a different perspective. Let's look at it from a startup and look at changing the status quo of scaling with speed, helping these startups with more than money. Let's give them some capital to scale up, but I think it's more about the services.
Right.
So we felt locally the challenges were access to ecosystem, mentorship, scale funding, and workshops to help these startups come together and learn from each other. And I think that's what kind of provoked us to create this ecosystem of Anthill Ventures.
Wow. So before we jump all the way into Anthill, I want to focus a little bit on your first two startups.
Sure.
Tell me about the journey of your first two startups, but I'm most specifically focus on the challenges. Certain challenges tell me about a challenge that you went through, and then how you obviously overcame it, but like a dark day in your startup that you thought everything was going to go, that's it, kaput, done. And how you overcame that. Sure.
So I think as entrepreneur, one of the biggest challenges, which at least I've faced, is taking ownership for all your employees and their livelihoods. You're basically helping them create something, but at the same time, you're also responsible for them and their families.
Right.
So that's a big burden on any entrepreneur, apart from, whether the idea takes off, whether it's going to be a unicorn or a sunicorn or get acquired. The main thing is, will I be able to sustain this, and will I ever let these folks down who believe in me? And I think the darkest day is when, the time comes, and I think it's not just one dark day. There've been many dark days when you have to pay salaries and you don't have money in the account, and you just have to wait for checks to be released, money to come in, investors to write those checks, and all the journey to ensure that the ball is still running. And we've had some of those, but I think the team has been so fantastic and so spectacular in supporting each other and the idea that it evolved so beautifully and so naturally that when we actually got acquired, even the large corporate was amazed by the integral structural integrity we built within the organization. Wow. In seamlessly transferring the entire technology and the operations and processes we have built within the company.
Wow.
So the entire knowledge transfer happened within 7 business days, which is fantastic.
Wow, that's incredible. So that's pretty quick for big corporates, but at the same time, it goes to say a big testament, and not just about you, but about the culture that you built.
Right.
It's a lot of it all boils down. The reason why we're able to do such a process, from my understanding, a lot of it was because of the people, which the people represent the culture. So the question is, how would you be able to, how to go about building an amazing culture like that, that's based upon, speed, transparency, responsibility, people relying upon each other, people feeling the ability to communicate and really help each other out and grow?
I think it really boils down to being a good leader, understanding the qualities of the people you have chosen. And I always believe that you're only as efficient as the people around you, that you surround yourself with. And delegating authority and duty to each of these folks is quite crucial. And I think that's where I would say some folks have still surprised me in what they could achieve and what the kind of ownership they took of the task. But I think that's the most beautiful thing, that you give them something to do and allow them to surprise you.
Right.
And I think it's all the collective power of the people within the organization which effectively result in whether the idea is being successful or not.
Mm-hmm. Wow. You have to give a leadership class, Leadership 101, how to lead.
I wish, man, but I think there are enough folks out there who've done fantastic jobs. And yeah, I think each person's lesson is something which the next generation can, partake from and learn from. Yeah.
Right. So I'm definitely, for sure, I'm definitely assuming that the startups in your batch are very lucky to have you. In fact, show them how to lead with by example, and do all that. So that's incredible.
Thank you. Yeah.
So talk to me about Anthill Ventures, and then what exactly is it that you focus on specifically?
Sure. So Anthill Ventures is a speed scaler VC.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we invest in early growth stage startups in the areas of technology disruption and differentiators in four industries: media entertainment, fintech, health tech and life sciences, and futuristic lifestyle. So we invest in pre-series A stage and help these startups scale up through our speed scaling programs in these four industries, and help them in getting distribution channels, corporate partnerships, mentors, advisors to help them validate their idea, product development support, and finally scale funding to help them go from pre-series A to series A and series B. And typically series B is where we exit. And what we have come to see is our time with a startup is typically 4 years. That's the period from when we invest and help them scale up and we get an exit.
Wow. That's a pretty quick time span. I mean,
yeah. It's an ambitious one, I should say, but yeah, we're trying to target for that.
so then let me, let's say the startup comes to you and they say, hey, Sailesh, I have this great concept, great idea. We have a little bit of traction and, we raised, let's say, seed money. And you have a similar startup coming to you and telling you the same exact story. How do you go about evaluating these two companies? Are you looking for the product market fit? If they have that, are you looking at the founder, the founding team? What is it that you evaluate in the founder or in a startup? And I guess both.
Right. So, Ephraim, to be really frank, we always believed and invested in the team and the founders. So we always felt the team should have three qualities. And that's why it's very rare where we invest in a single founder startup. So we look for a visionary, a hacker, and a hustler. So these three qualities are very crucial for a startup to succeed. And we strongly believe it's not necessarily the idea. The idea is definitely crucial, but it's a team which has the capability to execute it and see it to the end. And that's very crucial. And I think it's very crucial for the team to have alignment of their personal values with the key elements of the idea or the company. And that translates to success of the company.
Right.
And I think high degree of motivation and faith in his or her business idea, and self-confidence and self-trust is very, very crucial. Mm-hmm. Because as I mentioned, they're going to come multiple times where you're going to question yourself not because of the choice you've done, because there's so many people's livelihoods which are on the line, and yours including. So having that really helps, and ability to inspire and strong ethics and communication skills are very crucial for a strong founder.
Wow. But you got me stuck. I mean, it's a phenomenal, everything you mentioned over there is actually phenomenal and it's very necessary. Those things that you just mentioned have to be like the prerequisite for founding a startup. But you lost me at visionary, hacker, and hustler. And I want to know how can you measure, for example, measure that? Obviously you can see someone's a visionary. You can see the basic characteristics of it. You definitely could. But
correct.
How do you
yes.
measure it within a founding team or startup that's coming to you?
So I think that's why we designed the speed scaling program, Ephraim, frankly, because it kind of mitigates our risk in investment side, but also kind of help us in assess the team by spending time with them. Mm-hmm. And we kind of feel it's very, very crucial that these check boxes are ticked in terms of the founding team and the key team members, that they have these qualities and are well-rounded for the success of the startup. It's not, and we've seen in our experience as well, we've had a few startups of shut shop in even our portfolio. And the primary reason is not the idea, it's not the timing, it's not the product fit. All these are directly translating into saying that the qualities we looked for in the founder basically didn't translate into what we assumed.
Right.
And that's why we feel, and whenever we invested in the founder or the team, we've never ever let down. And that's been a strong thesis for us. So we tend to spend a lot of time with these founders, and we continue to do that with our portfolio founders as well, because it's always a learning curve for us to see how much they can surprise us with.
Right. So you guys really have the great ability to choose the proper founders.
That's what we keep telling ourselves, but that's a learning process for us too.
So I think founders, before they even have the idea to start a company, they should come get a psychoanalysis by you guys to understand if they're able to.
Well, you'd be surprised. We actually thought of, having a self-mastery program for startups as well. So
definitely should, because, you definitely should do that. And because the way startup and entrepreneurship right now is looked upon and being done in India is,
right.
Something that unprecedented precedent from all views of point. No one ever thought that would become to it right now. If you look back a decade ago, even a little bit, there wasn't this whole incredible ecosystem that's happening. And
Correct.
now entrepreneurship and startups is a new MBA. Every single person wants to do it. Everybody's like, we got to start a startup. So
exactly. Yeah.
And so there has to be some type of people have to understand really what is started. It's not what's really entailed in starting a startup and how hard and amazing and incredible the journey is. But at the same time, it's the hardest journey you ever do in your life. But people think, if I have a startup on my title, it makes me incredible. It makes me bulletproof. No. Wow. So based upon that, what do you tell somebody that's looking to get into entrepreneurship and startups?
You mean entrepreneurs who are already have a startup?
People that are deciding to get into entrepreneurship. If they're debating, should I start a startup or not start a startup? Should I go on this incredible journey or not? What do you tell them?
So I think the most crucial thing is, I think it's very important to be honest to oneself and the people around you and focus on the larger goals in life.
Right.
Only once you have a macro level vision, you can then focus on the micro level goals to achieve the vision. And for that, you need to be true to yourself in what you want to achieve, what your strengths are, who you're surrounding yourself with, and being a good, you have to really be good at assessing the other person. And that's what an entrepreneur really requires, apart from all the skills I mentioned earlier.
Wow. But I like that. If you could elaborate more a little bit, because it's very interesting for me, the macro and the micro level, right?
Right. So, it's very important to paint. The biggest challenge with entrepreneurs today is whenever they have an idea, they do some research. It could be, let's say, the internet e-commerce space. It could be biotechnology. They look at what is the market size, right, and what is the SAM, which is the TAM, the SOM, the SAM, and the SOM, and they finally come back to what they can actually achieve. The challenge is where they're failing is that they're getting these numbers from somebody who's done this research a while back or based on certain parameters, not based on the parameters on which you've built your idea or your company. So it's very crucial to assess what your idea is and how it would disrupt the marketplace, disrupt the status quo, and whether it's really a need of the market, a need of the hour. And some can question, how do you really know that? I mean, I could start building small size rockets and assume people are going to buy it from my e-commerce website. Is that a practical solution? Right. The simple question is, ask yourself and be honest with it, whether the problem you're trying to solve, is it worth solving? And is there somebody out there who's willing to pay something for it?
Right.
And once you believe there is, then there's no looking back. And that's when you kind of look at the macro level vision and then start working towards the micro level goals. What does that you require to achieve this goal and achieve that vision? Right.
Wow. How's it possible you don't have a blog?
As I said, it's time consuming, man, my work. So I should look at video blogs though after speaking with you, Ephraim. I think that's a little simpler.
Definitely. I mean, this is all stuff that you should be writing up about the concepts that people can understand. Right now we just said, it's on par with Paul Graham. You're going in competition with him. His but that's 100% how, how people should approach it and look at it and evaluate, especially from the ideation phase, to look at that. It's at a macro and a micro level. It's such a true thing.
Correct. It reduces the number of companies that are shutting down in the startup space, because what happens is a lot of people from the outside look at the failure rate,
right,
and kind of immediately imagine, oh God, this is a high risky space. Of course, it's a high risk space compared to any of the market currently available today, be it the capital market, the mid caps, small caps, mutual funds, anything. The reason being that, as you said, people just jump into it for the flair of being an entrepreneur,
right,
but not understand the challenges and what they're trying to solve and whether it's worth going after.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
So the real question is, besides obviously you're having this whole thought process of that thing is seeing how the idea is, but once someone decides to go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to go ahead with this idea, I'm going to build an MVP, a minimum viable product, and really test out that phase of development to see if it's worth building out for then. So what process do you say to go about over there to really test your startup? Once you decide that, yes, I'm going to do it, and you thought about the whole macro, micro to see, but what process do you have over there?
So interestingly, we've also built something which we call as SQ score, which is a scalability quotient score. So what we do is we have over 108 parameters, which we use from market fit, product, the founder's profile, whether the pricing and the technology, so on and so forth, and use these questions to basically get responses from the startup, and then create a spider graph through which we can evaluate where the startup has the strength and where it needs to focus on, needs to get a co-founder, or try and work on this vacuum to strengthen that piece of your idea or your solution. Mm-hmm. So this is what we've developed with a leading university in India and Singapore jointly to develop this patented intellectual property. So we pride ourselves in it, and we have quite an interesting success rate with it, and we've used that with some of our corporate accelerators, with banks, financial institutions, retail companies, listed companies as well in their process of evaluating startups, and it's come out really well. So yeah.
Wow, you should create that into like a video game, so people can actually build try building a startup and creating real scenarios.
Very interestingly, Ephraim, somebody from Singapore had suggested the same thing. So we are looking at gamifying that.
Yeah, you have to gamify that process. And that way also, you can educate more people to see if they have the capabilities in order to build a startup in real world scenarios. So,
Of course. And I think that process also is kind of maturing in a way that a lot of financial institutions, which especially from the government side, looking to support the startup ecosystem in India, are using these metrics and KPIs to evaluate startups to see what is the measure of success and what is the measure of them to likely raise the next round of capital, so that they also are putting their money behind the right set of folks. And that's quite crucial coming from a government, because especially they don't really look at a return, but primarily to support the ecosystem. So it's quite crucial that their money supports the right set of folks to further strengthen the ecosystem.
Right. Well, I'm sure if they're trusting you guys and they're business together with you, then they're in good hands.
Thank you, Ephraim. Appreciate it.
So tell me like this. What are, I guess, the books that you recommend to other people to go ahead and read, other entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so there are a few books which I would definitely recommend for entrepreneurs to read. This is at any stage. It could be before they jump in, after they jump in, or while they even have second thoughts about it. So the number one book I would suggest is a book called Leadership Dogma. It's Leadership Dogma, which is basically, are you aware of the Mahabharata, a timeless Indian epic? So it's a very interesting story, and the beauty of these Indian epics are they're always relevant to the current time, unlike the other historic stories of the other parts of the world. And the reason it is because it's built with that flavor in such a way that they kind of provide ethics, morals, and values to any to any set of folks. It could be from 1920 to 2018 is current to every single generation. So
Right.
it's very fascinating. So leadership dharma is basically it shows that true leadership is the ability to see the invisible, balance the disparate, and convert the many points of view. So it really enables someone to stand at the crossroads and decide what's right for you. So
Mhm.
asking the difficult questions, Ephraim, and getting not responses from somebody else, but responses from within, and that's what's important.
Wow. Is it an Indian business book?
It's an Indian business book,
Okay.
and I'll definitely share that with you. And
Yeah.
I think you'll find it interesting. And the other one is, I'm sure most of the guys would have also recommended Zero to One by Peter Thiel.
Mhm.
And I love that book, man. I mean, it's a fantastic read, and it gives a great deal of perspective at any point in an entrepreneur's life. The other one is an interesting read, and it could also be a fun read, which is The $1 Billion Whale. Have you read it?
No, I've heard about it, but I've not read it. No.
Okay. It's about the man who fooled Wall Street, Hollywood, and the world, right? It's by Tom Wright and Bradley Hope, and it's an interesting read. You should definitely look it up, and it's quite a fascinating story.
Wow. I definitely gonna check
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah, it's amidst all the financial crisis, right? And then how this one guy pretty much took the entire financial world for a ride, and I think it's just fantastic. Yeah, when you set your mind to it, it is amazing what you can do.
People, listen, we're powerful. People are powerful. They don't realize the capabilities that they have and what they can accomplish and everything. And so powerful.
Exactly. Yes.
So who are your mentors? Mentors that people that made a difference in your life and people that you look up to.
So it's quite interesting, when you say mentors, mentees, or people who have made a difference in my life, because the way I see the people who made a difference in my life are people I closely relate to and people who have influenced me. So, the one person who's really changed my life, I would say, as I've spoken about my childhood, is my dad. So he's been a symbol of stability for me, resilience, honesty, humility, work-life balance and ethics and strong leadership. So I think that's something which I've really, respected my dad for, um, and learned something from him, which I think has made the person who I am today. And I would say my mom has taught me what unconditional love is, which is very crucial in one's life. And I'm very glad when you said it's not just an entrepreneur, but a person as a whole and how it affects. And you really cannot say I'm an entrepreneur and nothing else affects me. I don't need a life. You need everything. You need a well-balanced life, and that's what makes you who you are. There are phases in life where you need to put different things in perspective. It doesn't mean that your entire life consumes you by the work you are.
Right.
So, and interesting. So I've been married for 8 years now, Ephraim, and I've known my wife for over 10. And I would say she's taught me how to be passionate, creative, charitable, and shown me what true energy is. So and of course, I all my patience that I have today, and the one I show with my entrepreneurs is thanks to my children. I have a 4-year-old and a 18-month-old, and I'm a different person, man. So it just shows that you're never too old to start learning, and that's been quite interesting journey for me.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, tell your parents
Yeah.
thank you from me for doing a great job. So
Definitely, Ephraim. Appreciate it. Thank you.
tell me about this work-life balance and how do you approach it? Is it something that's attainable, not attainable? So your dad, for example, obviously you had a different job than
Right.
in entrepreneurship, so he was able to come home at night and be with you. But as a VC, as an entrepreneur, it's something very, very hard to accomplish and do because it's more or less, it's not a 9 to 5, it's a
Correct.
24-hour job. How do you approach
Right.
it? Or how do you, the people that ask you, your entrepreneurs that are in your batch, that your startups, how do you bring it up to them?
So I think it's the way of life, Ephraim, and it's very important you strike the right balance through food, spirituality, and your basic physical, I would say, balance. It's very crucial to have a well-rounded life balance, and it's not easy, man. You have to have it up here and here to have that balance.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurs ask me, what's the secret mantra? I said, there's no secret mantra, kids. You need to work on yourself 24/7 to achieve it. But once you achieve it, it's basically, it's not as simple as it sounds, but it's basically on-off switch.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to know when to switch it on and off to have that balance. Otherwise, what happens is, especially with family or work, you really cannot create a barrier. As you said, I work from 8 to 8, and then I spend time when I can with my kids. They're not going to be available. Right. Same thing with your work. You can't just say, you know what, these are my working hours, this is when I'm going to be available, deal with it. So it's very important how you structure your time, how you manage your work, and how you respond to situations. Mm-hmm. It's all about that balance. And it takes time. It takes a lot of, self-mastery, which, happens through multiple folds of, controlling yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually to achieve that balance. But yeah, it is achievable, Ephraim. It's not, you don't see gray hair on me, so it's not going to take a long of time, but it's definitely going to take some time.
You're 21 plus, no?
I know, man. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. But I just strike the balance between my team of 40 plus of my partners and 20 plus of the rest of the team. So I'm the guy who's in between. So yeah.
But that balance is the most, that personal development phase, mental health, and then the personal, physical health, having that balance is the most important thing, right, I think. And that really can make a big difference in any journey in life, not just in entrepreneurship, but as a person. Eating the right food, because what you eat becomes part of you, becomes part of your blood. So having the right food.
Exactly.
And exercising. And, all this and taking care of yourself properly, that's just that's itself is something you have to focus on. And that can really enhance your whole entire lifestyle, enhance your life and everything. Wow.
Perfectly put, Ephraim. And I hope you're doing that.
That's right. Well, with inspiration from you right now, and speaking to you about it, I definitely going to put bigger emphasis on it. But I definitely do it. Yeah. So looking back now, obviously your career just began, and Anthill Ventures is on the path for world domination, and we'll get there eventually. But looking back now, and looking at a young Sailesh just coming out of university, about to face life and about to face the real world for the first time, what message you go about telling it?
That's a difficult one, but if we have to put in a few words, what I would say is dreams do come true, and you can't change anyone except yourself. You have to admit that. And, I would say trust your intuition and continue to keep learning. I think that's the only message I'd love to give to a younger self.
I love that. Absolutely love that. What dreams did you have that came true?
Everything, man. Everything I did in personal and professional life. I think whatever I have right now is pretty much, I'm sure I wouldn't have dreamt of being a VC. Right. But, professionally, where I wanted to be, I think I'm quite comfortable now in saying that I enjoy coming to work every single day, and I enjoy every minute and second of what I do. And I think that's all I ask for.
Amazing. Yeah. So Sailesh, tell me, an entrepreneur that wants to present a company to you, an entrepreneur that wants to pick your brain or or just to get your advice, what is the best way for them to reach out to you?
I would say be bold, pursue an investor. Everybody loves to reach. We reached out and listened to a fantastic idea, mm-hmm. And so just don't be creepy and stalk us. But I would say we're most of the time open to listening out to founders, be it events, be it through professional platforms, be it directly through email, or if you just catch us outside and you want to pitch an idea, we'd be more than happy, because frankly, we're here in this space because we feel that we can support new young entrepreneurs, any stage of entrepreneurs, and their ideas, and provide them the right platform and the right structure for them to succeed. So, yeah, feel free.
Perfect. Definitely, dude, let them know that. Say this. And it goes without saying, if there's anything that I can do for you, for your family, or for Anthill Ventures, please don't hesitate. Always here for you guys. Anytime.
Definitely, Ephraim. As I always say, look forward from people in our network and in our community to keep sharing fantastic deals with us. Energetic entrepreneurs. That's all we look for, right? To kind of nurture the next idea, try and see how we can ease another problem in the world and simplify the world as is. That's what we.
That's what technology. Yeah, that's what technology entrepreneurship is. How to fix
exactly
simple and easier. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why I keep telling people, right? Technology is not going to replace your life. It's going to make your life simpler because that's not what we're meant for. We are meant to relax, enjoy, and have a complete life. And let technology take care of the difficult aspects of life or the aspects of life which don't need a human intervention.
Right.
And focus on yourself.
Correct. Exactly. 100%. So I've learned, thank you so much. I have learned a tremendous amount from today, from our interaction today, from our discussion. And
thank you so much.
And a lot of things that I could personally implement into my own life. And
fantastic.
One of the biggest things that I've taken away so far, I mean, quite a few things, but will be the emphasis on real personal development and having that goals in mind, creating goals and having that thing to attain your goals, that framework to attain your goals, and to constantly work on yourself. And knowing that, yes, work, entrepreneurship, and it's very important. And, but it's just a means to an end to live your journey and do your journey. But focus on yourself and have that support of family and friends is such an important aspect, incredible thing. But
Definitely.
This has been absolutely amazing. Sailesh, thank you so much.
Pleasure's all mine.
Incredible. Likewise. And we'll be in touch.
Pleasure's all mine, Ephraim.
Sure.
Thank you so much. I look forward.
Likewise.